Hi. If you like this podcast or any other podcast on the Duckfeed.tv network, please consider donating to the Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. A couple of dollars a month will get you access to the incredibly awesome Slack channel where you can talk to other Duckfeed fans. A couple more dollars gets you access to shows early. It'll get you some cool postcards in the mail, and it also goes a long way to supporting the network and making sure that we can continue to put out quality podcasts that you have come to know and love. Thanks, and enjoy this episode.
Can Air Flight 917 now arriving.
I can't wait to get down to the beach. This place is like a dream.
Wild man of Borneo, wild man of Borneo, wild man of Borneo, Borneo.
Welcome to Days of Future Cast. My name is Jeremy Greer.
I'm Gary Butterfield.
And this is the show where we talk about the 90s X-Men animated series.
Previously on X-Men.
We talked about, we were introduced to the X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
We were introduced to their foe, which is basically the U.S. government.
U.S. government, a little bit of Magneto.
Magneto too, a little bit. The Sentinels.
They laid out the themes we got going on. We got the government trying to control mutants. We got Magneto trying to control the government. And then we got Wolverine trying to control Jean Grey.
So pretty much the standard X-Men plot for the last about 40, 50 years.
It's a very complicated rock, paper, scissors. Right? Where Magneto beats government beats X-Men, and Ant-Man beats the Wasp. Oh!
That's cold, man. That's cold.
It's cold, yeah. It's unfortunate that happened. Morph died.
Yes, that will have no bearing on future plot, I'm sure.
No. One of the things that's impressive about watching this show again is how many of the seeds are planted for this stuff. So, not just that, but the big thing, the whole Wolverine, kind of being into Jean Grey pays off in this episode. And there's still little ties. They're setting up a lot of stuff that's going to continue throughout the season. This first season, I think, is pretty good as far as one giant story with lots of connective tissue.
And as I was watching some of the episodes, because I like the day that we record this, I try to binge watch all 4 episodes, so they're all fresh in my mind. And the animation is actually kind of good in some of the stuff. There were some scenes where Storm is flying at some Morlocks, casting lightning or whatever, and I was kind of into it. And that scene, and we'll get to it, but there's some really cool lighting and shadowing stuff happening in here. This show is kind of impressing me more than it even did when I was 13, which I think is super impressive. I don't
for me. There's not one episode where every shot is there's not an embarrassing shot. It's there's at least some kind of animated thing where something will be too small. There'll be some kind of perspective thing or something like that. So none of it's perfect, but there are more effects, and it is better than I remember. The other thing, and this is something that I think is actually good throughout the series, and I think we touched on it a little bit last episode, but this next set of episodes continue to impress me, is the sound design in the show is really excellent. The powers sound the way I want them to, and the sound design is actually pretty good, I think.
Yeah, when Cyclops hits somebody with his concussive blast or laser beams, whatever you want to call them, it sounds exactly like what I would have expected it to sound like in the comic book. And I know that doesn't make any sense, but all of the comic book noises come to life. So it's not just Wolverine snicked either. It's everything. Jubilee's powers sound good, and I never even thought Jubilee's powers sounded at all. So I don't know how that works.
No, it works really perfectly, and I love the idea of it filling in the sound for the visual representation of the energy of optics. It's 4 degrees removed from anything that makes sense because comics.
This is especially true with Jean Grey. Anytime Jean Grey does anything, it's blue, telekinetic laser stuff that also sounds real cool. It's really ridiculous.
She also buys her hats from the same place that Gambit does.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, the reverse back hat.
What is that hat?
I don't know. You can't buy it. You have to order it.
Maybe if this podcast ever goes to episode 100, maybe some intrepid artist will draw you and I with a mask like that.
We'll have to go to Etsy and get custom
absolutely
made ones.
custom made professional photographs made.
Who are those two dickheads? Like, what are those assholes wearing?
We'll go to the Sears Photography Center and get professional sit-down portraits done.
Hey, Moniamies. So as per every episode, or not every episode, but most episodes, we're going to be talking about four episodes of the cartoon. In the middle, we're going to do an X-Men spotlight, and yeah. So let's get started here with episode XM 105, Captive Hearts. Original air date January 30th, 1993. In this episode, Jean Grey and Cyclops are captured by Morlocks while on a night out on the town. Now Storm and the rest of the X-Men must locate and rescue the two mutants before it is too late. But when the X-Men are cornered, Storm must challenge Callisto to one-on-one combat for leadership of the Morlocks to free her friends.
And this is a plot pulled directly from the comic books. Like, this is
Absolutely.
like, you can pull this, you can go back to Uncanny X-Men. I don't remember exactly which issue, because I'm not that much of a nerd, but you can go back and basically read this entire episode in 3 or 4 issues of Uncanny X-Men.
With just a couple minor differences. And this is going to set up those seeds. Like, these guys are going to be important. Not only does this pave the way for my favorite cartoon of all time, though We Wish You a Morlock Christmas, the Table Boy, but this also sets up a lot of like things that are work in the comics that I think are goofier in the show, and we'll talk about it. Like, a lot of these Morlocks don't really seem like they need to be Morlocks. Like, one of them's deformity is that she's an old lady.
Yeah, and she's an old lady that can put people to sleep. Hey, guess what? That's my grandma.
Yeah,
My grandma was real good at
ladies.
putting people to sleep.
Yeah, all old ladies are going to cover you with scorpions. It's just how it works. They don't have to live in the sewer.
Have you not read a Grimm fairy tale in the last 20 years? This is how everything worked.
Yeah, that's how they Hansel Gretel you.
But we talked briefly last episode of these kind of moments in between, like, you know, going out to save the world, and as it's going to be common on this show, we start out in the danger room, like the X-Men are training, and we get kind of a whole montage scene. And there's something I want to bring up right here, because you don't see Storm use the power of snow very often. And I don't know why this ever occurred to me before, but like, she ices down like a laser gun or something. Can she just be Iceman if she wants to be? Like, do you think she just backs off and let Iceman do his thing? Because
it's I think she's like slow Iceman.
Okay.
Like,
okay.
You know, because two things. Like, one, I can imagine her not using that very often because she's from Africa. Like, maybe she just didn't get a lot of snow. It just doesn't occur to her to do it. So maybe that's part of it. But also, I think that if it were realistic, it would take too long to freeze something. So Storm's powers are in the cartoon are really just kind of do what they need to do. You know, I remember there definitely being parts in the comic where, like, she has to, like, you know, she brings in a storm to do something, and it can take a little bit of time. You know, I think Iceman's whole thing is that it's instant. And then that's not even getting into the weird shit with Iceman, how he's, like, technically an Omega level mutant and can reconfigure molecules and shit like that. Like, Iceman is one of the most powerful X-Men. He's like in the top 3. And, you know, but this is all before that. So, and I don't think Storm is in there. This is getting into way dorky, like, trading card shit. Like, this is how far the bars go to the right on the back of the trading card. But, like, the people who care about this shit.
I love those bars. I love those bars, though.
I like stats. I really like stats. Yeah, but yeah, she ices up some guns.
Yeah, she messes up some guns, but more importantly, she's the leader. She's kind of calling the shots. Cyclops is up in the danger room control area with Xavier, and it's just the rest of the team. And Storm is setting herself up as the leader. She's the one calling all the shots and telling everybody to do this and do that.
The other really important thing in the scene is we're getting another kind of glimpse of her claustrophobia.
Yeah.
As the walls start coming down to crush them. How goddamn expensive is the danger room? I think this is before they reveal that it's all Shi'ar hard light technology. So you just think they're just blowing up. There's like one where, like, Gambit, take out the targeting cameras. It's like, oh, you mean the cameras that show us what's happening in the room? Blow them up. You know?
Yeah, blow those guys up. I've got 10 more in the back because I'm Professor Xavier. This is what I do with my life.
His Amazon suggested purchases are just fucking out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, this whole thing is pretty funny. But after this, we get a little thing between Scott and Jean Grey. They decide to go on a date because they're ostensibly a couple, even though it hasn't really been explored up to this point. They've just been there's been like a couple of kisses here and there, but more it's just they've been working full time.
Yeah.
So this is them being able to get out.
Yeah.
And of course, because it's the X-Men, nobody can go on like just a normal, evening time activity. Like Scott Summers has never been to a concert that of the supervillain hasn't stopped.
That's 100% true. He's a cursed boy. And this is where we get Leech, who is not Leech like who as he is in the comics, where like so they're out having this talk. Is that it's not Leech who actually. Who's the little kid that they run into out on the streets?
It is Leech, and I was really confused about it first because
can Leech just do anything?
Yeah, because we see him here, like he telekinetically lifts some apples, and then when he gets called out for it, he like moves some people around.
He is a more powerful telekinesis user than Jean Grey in the cartoon. Like he's Phoenix Force level like telekinetics. It's fucking weird. And
he looks like he's like 10, man. He has no training whatsoever.
Where he's supposed to just be able to like dampen people's powers and stuff. Which reminds me, have you ever read the Usenet X-Men FAQ?
No.
Like the early days of the X-Men. It is a fun read and is online. And one of the things I like about it is one of the frequently asked questions, like the moderator of that, is how come Gambit and Rogue don't use Leech so they can touch each other and have sex? And the person just like, oh yeah, they should just totally use that 10-year-old boy as like a power condom.
Leech, come here. I don't wanna. Come here, goddammit.
Just here, play Game Boy and concentrate on us not being able to absorb each other's powers. And
gross.
Keep the head. And Leech is just like dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun,
just with the headphones just jammed as high as possible, just that volume just cranked up.
We tap you when we done.
Yeah, because Gambit in that awful accent definitely has some weird sex stuff with him.
That was his idea.
Rogue probably had to talk him down from actually including Leech in their relationships.
Just like, there's enough Gambit to go around, okay? Put on a goddamn shirt. I don't know what that is, but it's not a shirt.
Gambit, stop charging up the ball gag. I told you, I don't want it to blow in my mouth.
So this Leech Gambit, not the Leech Gambit shipping that I'm doing, but the actual ploy. So the Leech going up there and getting into trouble was actually just to lure Jean Grey and Cyclops down into the sewer, where they run into a bunch of Morlocks. And including like old Greaseface, like Slime Boy, and Strong Guy.
The power set here is kind of weird. Like there is like one person who's literally just putting grease in in the shape of a wall. Like I don't even know what you call that. Like what is her superpower name?
Well, the weird thing is there's a guy with the same kind of power, more or less, with super long arms that shows up later. When we get introduced to Gorgeous George of the Nasty Boys, the greatest of all the X-Men villain teams. But then you're also just the random, like whenever the artist has to just draw random background Morlocks, it's pretty great. And there's just like, oh, it's alligator face. He's got an alligator for a face.
There's one with a giant beak in this episode that's never explained. It's just shown one time, and that's it.
There's straight up an X-Men character named Beak, and this is not that.
Yeah, this is totally not that.
It's super weird. So they've trapped them down there and put them to sleep down there. The grandma puts them to sleep, and that was part of their thing. Cut to Wolverine, who is had it with this shit.
He's done, man. He's so fucking done with this.
And it just has to do with this unrequited love with him and Jean Grey. So I don't think they, like, out of all like the big couples in X-Men, I don't think that ever got a chance to like breathe. Is there ever like a run where Jean Grey and Wolverine are together?
I remember as a kid reading like a couple of issues, but then it turned out to be all on somebody's head. So it was just one of those like bait and switch things that they like to do with the X-Men. So I don't think that there was ever a time where they went on a date or like had any kind of time together. I think it was all like this unrequited will they won't they kind of thing.
It'd be kind of interesting, like an interesting dynamic to explore. Like you can't just do the it'll never work between us forever, like she kind of hits on him in the Grant Morrison run. And then I know in the Ultimate comics he's a couple with Storm.
Yeah.
But here, it's not the case. So he's too frustrated and he takes off. He rips up this painting and gets the fuck out of Dodge.
Yeah, he takes the picture and like uses one claw to like gouge out Cyclops' chest. So like definitely has some issues. We get back to the sewer where we meet Callisto, who is another person who's like,
I've had bartenders who look like that. Like, you don't need to live in the sewer, baby. Like,
Yeah, you live in New York. What are you doing?
yeah, you Callisto's deformity, quote unquote, is that she's kind of butch. Like, it is not anything. Like, I don't know. I mean, I get that she's the leader, so she's taking care of all the freaks, but like, I would say roughly half of the Morlocks just look like they could pass for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, they're just like one, like, I don't know, they look like somebody you would see in an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. Like, just kind of run down, kind of on their last legs, but trying to make it right. Like, good people, salt-of-the-earth people. Like, not people that should be shunned to the subways.
Like, they look homeless, sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we allow homeless people above ground.
I mean, in some cities they do. Not all of them. Some cities do.
That's where the Morlocks got their name. And Callisto lays out the plot here, which is pretty gross.
Yeah, she decides that Cyclops is going to be her husband and also mate because I guess she's looking for someone to provide her an heir and has seen...
An heir to what?
Yeah,
like,
to the subway.
What are you talking about, Callisto?
But I like how she has these VHS tapes of Cyclops taking down a Sentinel, which you would think...
She got them from Pizza Hut.
Yeah, exactly. She got my large pizza. I got my husband tapes.
my copy of Night of the Sentinels. Because Callisto's involved in Book It. But like, what an heir to like just like the person who hangs out in the sewer with normal people for the most part. Like, that's not a I mean, I guess it's not an elected position, but it's definitely not a hereditary position either. It's not a position.
I mean, do you think they have bylaws? Like, do you think they're like sitting around like, okay, we have to take the minutes of the Morlock meeting?
Oh boy, would that be torturous! I just which has emotion. Ah, jeez. God. Oh boy!
Everybody stand! I pledge the allegiance.
Yeah. So she's essentially going to like force Cyclops to be her husband. This is I think in the original version or later there's an inversion of this with Callisto who steals Shadowcat in the comics. Might be what this is based on. But regardless of which, Jean breaks free because she's Jean Grey. So they have all these tapes of Jean Grey doing Jean Grey shit, and they don't realize that you can't actually just chain her to the ceiling.
Which is just it's just the worst.
Yeah,
I love their plan on like every single time something comes up, like Jean Grey is just on the ceiling in a chain, and I'm like, you have VHS tapes of Cyclops. Do you not do any more research than that? Yeah,
it is, and also you don't have Leech covering her. Like, Leech is stopping Cyclops from using his beams, but so she reaches out to Xavier, and there's this weird suggestion that like it gets cut off. You know, like, because she gets knocked out, but that shouldn't stop Xavier unless it's because they're underground, in which case, like, Xavier is not nearly as strong a telepath as I think.
And conveniently, Cerebro, nowhere to be found this episode.
Yeah, decide not to do it. So the X-Men head into the sewer, into the subway.
Xavier just tells them, this is as close as I can get, and literally there's a smash cut to them walking into a subway entrance. And I'm like, so they got like, he told them that they were on the B train, but that was it? It was somewhere on the B train? What are you... Fucking Cerebro, man. Just inconsistent results. That's my problem, is inconsistency.
Yeah, Cerebro makes no sense. And the X-Men get their asses handed to them, because that's what happens when the X-Men fight an unfamiliar foe every single time. This is one of my favorite fight scenes, though, primarily because of Combat Grandma and her interaction with Wolverine, because she gets into Wolverine's head. And this is something that me and my friend Derek, who I've talked about on Watch Out Fireballs, who's my best buddy growing up, quote all the time, where he's like, "Ah, lady," and he's gonna stab this grandma, and she says, "But you're covered with scorpions." Covered with scorpions. And then Wolverine goes, "I'm covered with scorpions." Like, just repeats it back, and it's like very funny to me.
It's
also,
so good.
Why do you give a shit? Like you did.
Covered with scorpions. Covered with scorpions.
No! Covered with scorpions! Get them off me! What are you doing to my head?
You have a mutant healing power. I mean, like, I would go out and get stung by scorpions just because I know they won't kill me. Like, why not?
Maybe it feels good. I've never tried it.
Maybe it gets me high, man. I'm desperate over here. Heroin lasts 37 seconds in my system. I've timed it. I need something strong.
I need the high that can be brought by 40 scorpions. crawling on my combat suit simultaneously.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So bad. So this is where, after some back and forth, Callisto shows up and is like, fine, here, look, we killed your leader. We killed Cyclops. Here he is. Like, you guys, we're going to give you safe passage. Yeah, you guys leave. Take your dead body with you, and don't come knocking again. Which, of course, does not work, because Wolverine immediately senses that something's going wrong and goes to stab the dead body, which it turns out to totally not be Cyclops. It's some shapeshifter Morlock who... I know there is a shape-shifting Morlock, but, like, dude, you're a shapeshifter. Go pretend to be somebody beautiful. If this is what you're hung up on, like, I love you for you, man, but, like, go pretend to be a model.
100%. Like, Mystique doesn't walk around in her, like, blue scaly form. You know, she doesn't need to. The Morlocks have no reason to live in a sewer. And we haven't even talked about the fact that these guys just eat and sleep in shit, which is a big problem I have with the Morlocks in general, which we underlined when the X-Men decide to have their Christmas dinner down there covered in shit in next season, I think. So then we get into another fight scene here. And we're introduced to a character, again, like, I love these seeds are getting planted, though, because we're introduced to Pestilence here. Like,
yes,
1,000 episodes before she becomes a featured player. Because she's an old lady who can make people sick, and she gives Gambit the plague.
Gambit gets the plague, and he's basically out for the rest of the episode. Like, he never comes back. In fact, I don't even know where he is. Like, does somebody stay with him, or do they just, okay, Gambit's got the plague, he's going to stay over there now. Like, get out of our way.
They put him on a leaf on a river of shit and just send him downstream. So
he's
washes up
Moses. He's Plague Moses.
Yeah, he washes up like the sewer gate outside of, like, Jersey. And then they have to go get him. It's like in Being John Malkovich. Like, they all just have to go drive and pick him up.
Oh, God. Being Gambit would be a hilarious movie in that same format.
Oh, boy.
Just people would pay not to be put behind his eyes. Please don't make me go back.
Like, it would just be, like, the thirstiest boy.
Ugh, God. So Wolverine tracks down the real Cyclops and has this moment of inner monologue. In fact, actually, I think he might be speaking out loud at this point, where he's like, I could totally kill you right now and I could make some people sad, but I don't want to see Jean cry. And I'm like, this is the only thing preventing you from murdering your teammate? Like, that's it?
Yeah. He's in a rough spot, man. He's been friend-zoned a few too many times. And the cool thing is, like, they can clearly win the fight, but it's gonna keep happening, like, this is gonna be a thing. So this is when Storm steps up and is badass and challenges Callisto to a duel with the double lightsabers from the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I don't understand this at all. And in the comic books, number one, earlier in the episode, Wolverine clearly, like, cut Callisto's lightsaber in half. So what happened to that? Now it's all back together again. But where did Storm pull out this lightsaber thing, and why doesn't she use it all the time? It seems like if you're...
It's made of weather.
It's made of weather. But Callisto specifically says, like, if you use any of your mutant powers during this duel, like, you're going to lose all your honor or whatever, which, like, whatever, who the fuck cares? Like,
I just met you.
Yeah, you live in a subway. I don't give a shit about your honor.
Yeah. What kind of honor is here when people literally flush toilets upon you?
Get a mortgage. Get into some debt. Then I might have some respect for you.
Yeah. So they get in a fight, and Storm wins because Storm is, it's never shown in the cartoon. Like, this never comes up again that Storm is really good at hand-to-hand combat. Like, she is in the comic, but the cartoon just makes her fly around and shoot weather at people. But she wins, so she's now the leader of the Morlocks.
Yes, and then promptly invites them, like, hey, come live in Xavier's mansion with us, which, number one, is... I'm not much of a fan of how Xavier comports himself during this series, but, like, you kind of have to ask that dude if he can bring a bunch of shit-covered subway people to his house. You gotta just check with him. A simple text is going to prevent a lot of unnecessary talking later.
I got some friends. Is cool? Like, oh, yeah, sure. And then just, like, Slime Boy walks in. Table Lad scoots on in. Yeah, and then they decline because they say it's like an honor thing. Like, until mutants are accepted, we must live here, which I don't really understand. Callisto is placed as an honorary leader, and Psyche and Jean finally get to touch some tongue, which they've been waiting waiting for, and this is the final straw for Wolverine. Like, he's made Jean happy, but at what cost? And he's going to go off and do a really bonkers solo episode.
Yes, which I am so glad we're getting into right now in episode 6.
Yes.
Because, wow, Gary, this is my episode. This thing is crazy. Do you want to bring us in with the description?
Yeah, this is XM 106 Cold Vengeance, original air date, February 6th, 1993. Wolverine flees to Canada to seek solitude in the Canadian wilderness. He finds peace among a group of Baffin Island Inuit, only to discover that Sabretooth has been stalking him and has taken the people of the village captive and plans to kill them all. I totally forgot this episode existed. And typically in the cartoon, or even in the comics, like Wolverine solo things are not my favorite. But this is amazing. Like this
whole
super
thing
good.
is just hilarious to me. Number one, it starts out like we open on Wolverine skiing just in the middle of nowhere. He's just got a set of skis. He's like cross country skiing.
He's not skiing like down a hill like James Bond.
No,
he's cross country skiing, which is like the dorkiest sport. Like, you can't look cool cross country skiing.
No,
and then noted master of explosives Sabretooth has put a bomb on this ice bridge. Can you imagine like Sabretooth like using his like gigantic meat hands and his 1,000 ab, and just like setting up a complicated explosive device? Like,
I just imagine him like that. Immediately gives me like some like IKEA flashbacks. So like he's got the IKEA instructions for the bomb. It's like, why don't they just put it in English? If there's a green wire, just color the wire green. Don't write green on it. Oh shit!
So he blows him up and then blows up this bridge and throws him into like a gigantic body of water, and we start getting confused as to where exactly we're at. We think it's Canada, but they say Sabretooth says you won't survive on its island in the Arctic,
which makes no sense. Like I don't get.
No,
but I'm assuming that's just like anytime like a cartoon writer has to see cold and ice, like they just assume that's going to be in Alaska. So.
Yeah.
And this may be in my ignorance as well, but like this Baffin Island Inuit, is that a real thing? Are those real people? Because if so, like they probably weren't represented well in 1993 on this X-Men animated series.
My guess is that if it was a real thing, this is our terrible representation, especially at the end where they're like, this best fish harvest since big ships come and take the big fish. Like,
so bad.
And then, everything with this tribe is incredible. But there's a subplot we have to deal with too, which is another thing that's kind of impressive about this cartoon, is it's setting up the next episode. Well, because Gambit is kind of fighting with Cyclops because he knows somebody who knows about this paradise called Genosha. And he's like, I say go check it out. He gets so mad, I
hate that you do a better Cajun voice than I do. I live in South Louisiana. I'm in Acadiana right now as we speak.
I've been thinking about Gambit for 25 years.
So Gambit wants to go check out Genosha, which is apparently like this mutant paradise. And for whatever reason, Cyclops is real mad about it. I don't even understand.
Wolverine earlier too. He's like, you don't ditch your friends, and it's like, is he drawing a paycheck? Like, what has he done wrong? Like, what are you? This is a loose affiliation at best. Why do you get to control how people spend their free time?
Yeah, I don't know if you watch Silicon Valley, but there's a moment at Silicon Valley where the dude who's like the CEO of the organization they're trying to start goes outside, and the kid from Freaks and Geeks is out there smoking pot, and he's like, shouldn't you be there working? He's like, I live here. I'm off work. Not just happen to live here. This is my off time. And that's how I got to feel like Scott Summers is. Like, anytime he sees somebody not doing something, it's like, shouldn't you be in the danger room, Jubilee? And Jubilee's like, motherfucker, I'm just trying to watch real TV. trying to watch some music videos over here.
So Xavier says, maybe you guys could use a vacation, because he notices that Cyclops is being a dick and stressing everyone out. Essentially just getting him away from Cyclops is my feeling. So sends, he says, Storm, you go and take 2 X-Men with you. And takes Gambit and Jubilee, and sends them as tourists there, which apparently, like, Gambit was already gone when he says that, because Gambit never changes his clothes. And Gambit's tourist outfit is the exact same thing as his Sentinel fighting outfit.
He's at the airport in purple and black with the trench coat, man, and the dumb helmet we mentioned earlier. It's insane.
I love it. I love it so much. It is so good.
And Storm's in like a little jumper, and Jubilee, I don't know what she's wearing. It's ridiculous, whatever it is. Like
that could just be teen
something
fashion.
But it's something like a 45-year-old cartoonist version of what teen fashion is.
But so Wolverine, cutting back to Wolverine gets found by Eskimos, and he's like, I heal fast. I'm going to do some work, which leads to one of my all-time favorite scenes in anything here, when he goes on this fishing boat, and there's a local guy, like B-Boy, because he's got a hat with a B on it. Which I can only assume stands for Baffin Island. And he's like, I'll teach you how to fish. And Wolverine is just like the Great White Hope, teaching these native people. He does every one of their traditions 1,000 times better than they do.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In a really troubling way. He just like the one guy is like, whoa, and drops the net. And then Wolverine throws the fish out and the thing perfectly catches 1,000 goddamn fish in one pole, and he's laughing at the other Inuit guy, and I swear to God, Jeremy, some of the fish are smiling with him. I'm not kidding. Like, you can I watched it again before we started recording. There's one fish that has like a real shit-eating grin, like, glad I wasn't caught by that guy over there. This guy.
What a piece of shit that guy is for not being able to catch me with that net.
Yeah, it's so good. The expression on these fish face is off the chain. Like, I'm not kidding. It's so good. And then Wolverine is just being super cruel. Just like, ha ha ha. Sounds like the one who got away. Yep. And it's like, why are you being so mean to this guy?
Wolverine is just having the time of his life. Just like completely shitting all over this dude. Like, and like getting everybody on his side too. Like when they come back with the fish, Wolverine like throws the baskets of fish up on his shoulders and walks away. And then this local dude comes up, the same guy that's been being made fun of for a while.
Yeah,
B-Boy drops the fish, slips everywhere, and falls down. And then everybody laughs.
It's so good. Why is this mean thing happening to that guy? It makes no sense in the plot. Like, we weren't like shown to not like him. He's not getting his comeuppance. He's just a guy. He's no different than any of these other Inuit. Like, it's incredible. Wolverine just targeted, and the plot just targeted this guy to be the whipping boy.
In 5 years, the documentary Bowling for Baffin Island is going to come out, and they're going to this is where it all turned. This was the turning point.
Luckily he gets his redemption here, but it just makes it weirder because there's no reason for him to need it. The chief, who has a very offensive, like, the spirits are angry kind of voice, says like, the people are happy, we should celebrate, and they're throwing people up on a blanket like they do in movies. Like, I don't know if you ever had one of these blanket parties.
Blanket party to me is like the Few Good Men blanket parties, right? Okay. Totally different thing than what I just saw on this TV show.
Here's the thing, though. Wolverine is like 2,000 pounds.
Yeah, like, he's like a horse. He has metal bones, or he has metal coated bones, but it's like the heaviest material on Earth.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
But they still throw him up, and he's just having the best time in the world.
Oh man, and he does this weird howl laugh thing.
Come, Wolverine. It's your turn to celebrate.
Oh no, you got the wrong guy. I get airsick.
We all need to forget ourselves and be a child again.
Well, don't say I didn't warn you. Whoa! Hey, watch it! Come on now!
So B-Boy runs off because he just can't handle this, because who could blame him? Like, what court would convict him at this point for anything he does? Runs off, and Sabretooth runs into him, and he's like, you smell like my enemy. I'm going to kill you, because Sabretooth is a sociopath. And he's like, no, I'm not a friend with him. And he's like, well, here, you need vengeance. You're going to be my hench boy. He's being manipulated by Sabretooth. Sabretooth just wants to get Wolverine away from the village.
Do you think that like Sabretooth has ever gone into a Burger King and is like, this smells like Wolverine a little bit, and just murdered everybody in there? What kind of lifestyle does this guy leave that he just follows the people around and murders people that smell like something?
It is. It's the thing about Sabretooth is it's not like he's really well developed in the comics or anything. cartoon Sabretooth is an amazing like single issue voter. Like there's like one thing that like cartoon Sabretooth cares about. And it's like every other thing that's simplified in the show, like you could point to the comics and be like, oh, this is actually a little bit more nuanced. Not really with Sabretooth. Like he's even a good guy for a little while, but it never makes sense. Like he's just angry boy. Anyway.
So bad. So yeah, he sends B-Boy to challenge Wolverine to go fishing or something. And like even the elder of the camp is like, hey yo, B-Boy, your jealousy is getting a little out of hand. Like we've all had this conversation about you behind your back, which never helps.
Yeah. Also, we caught enough like 6 fish for every person yesterday.
Yeah. We're having a luau because we're in Hawaii now. So yes, Wolverine and B-Boy go out to sea, and sure enough, Sabretooth comes in and captures all of the villagers and burns down the village in the space of about 3.5, 4 minutes. Like they can't have been gone that long. Like, Sabretooth's really putting his nose to the grindstone on this one.
He's a hard worker. I'll give him that. The thing I like about this though is it sets up this pattern of like Sabretooth not being able to fight Wolverine directly, so going after what he loves, you know? Like he's and that's a theme that shows up in the comics too. Like, listen, you can best me in a fight, but because I hate you so much, everyone and everything you care about will be destroyed. You know, and like that's actually like a thing I kind of like about, you know, Wolverine's dynamic or Wolverine's setup or whatever.
Yeah, because he can't help himself. Like he can't help because he's always taken in, you know, Wolverine's Home for Wayward Girls and all that stuff. Like he can't help himself but love people, and that's like the core to that dude. And even though he's way overplayed, and man, I tried reading the Death of Wolverine stuff from a couple of years ago because it's on Marvel Unlimited now, and I couldn't get more than like 2 or 3 issues into that. Like he's making out with the character Death at one point, and I'm like, okay, no, I got a jet.
I haven't read it, but I was reading about it, and I saw the final panel when he gets coated with adamantium. Like that design is amazing. What an undignified end for a character where he just looks like this, like a special effect. Like he looks like a slime covered monster.
Does he end up looking like Han Solo in the Carbonite or whatever?
Not nearly that good. Like it's way goopier. Like it is the goopiest end for the grisliest boy. Like
the goopiest end to the grisliest boy.
So Sabretooth has taken all of the villagers and tied them to a bridge with some of his patented Sabretooth style high-tech explosives.
Sabretooth got bombed with one color wire.
Yeah. And he says, you know, you can they're going to blow up in a minute. If you can get through me, you can save them. And they do a fight.
And this is pretty basic. Like at one point, I think the highlight of this is that at one point, Sabretooth picks up some snow and throws it at Wolverine, and it gets into his eyes. And I guess nothing has ever been in Wolverine's eyes before, because he just freaks out immediately, sheathes claws, and is like, "Oh, my eyes! I can't! Oh, it's my eyes!" It's like that. It's like he got hit in the funny bone for the first time when he was 27 years old. It's like, what the fuck is this? What is happening?
This is one weak point. But eventually, you know, he tricks Sabretooth into falling off a cliff, and we can only assume that he's going to wash up and another Inuit village is going to rescue him. But until that happens, they save the people on the bridge, and B-Boy helped out because that's his redemption arc.
Oh yeah.
And then the village elder is like, Wolverine's like, "I'm sorry I got your city destroyed." He's like, "Well, several of us wanted to give up the old ways anyway and move to civilization."
Yeah,
because
thanks, white man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for teaching us the ways by destroying our way of life.
Can you ask my grandfather if he still loves me, since you can communicate with our elders more than we can?
It is unreasonable. But we go back to B plot though, because it's going to transition directly into the next episode, which is another favorite actually. Because they're there in the hotel. It's like a reggae thing. The hotel dude is like, or Gambit picks up a card. He's like, "Hey, 10% mutant discount."
What? Fucking cheap ass Cajuns, man. And I can say that. I'm from here. It's not racist when I live here.
when you find out what Genosha is doing and why it's attracting mutants, the fact that they're doing it through a 10% mutant discount at their hotel becomes amazing.
Oh yeah,
Like,
I mean, and 10%. What is tax in Genosha? 12%? Like you're not even.
What a silly plan. Like, so the hotel dude, though, we know something's up because the hotel guy's like, yeah, we have a hotel for you, and he pulls up his VHS tape of previous footage of the X-Men.
He had to have got it at the Pizza Hut Genosha, right? Like
Yeah,
it's the same
exactly.
footage as Callisto had last episode. Like, is this stuff just being spread around to the Pizza Huts across the world?
100%. They get all their ingredients and all their promotional things from the same place. So they go into a hotel and they get trapped because this hotel, or this like bungalow they're in, the metal walls come down on the side to trap them, and gas starts filling the hotel, which is like, again, a very expensive proposition. For the first time I was like, use your powers, you idiots, and they actually do, to get out onto the lawn and get confronted by like a real hodgepodge of, and that's no pun intended, of like mechanical villains and randos with guns and stuff.
Yeah, like there's like they're specifically not Sentinels, right? Like they're just like these random like robots, but like at one point like they hit the robot and then like the robot holds its head a little bit like it's hurt, and I'm like, wait, is there a dude inside the robot that you're
Why
hurting?
do they program me to feel pain?
Yeah, exactly. What is going on?
They're, for all intents and purposes, Sentinels, though, which is really strange. And then these like cool hover bikes and stuff, and they end up getting captured, and it leads directly into the third episode we're covering today. But before we get into that, we're going to do a little character spotlight.
These are the tales of the
Let's talk about Storm.
Let's talk about Storm, baby. Yeah.
What's your favorite Storm hairstyle?
Oh, I like 80s Storm.
Yeah,
Like I like Mohawk.
Mohawk Storm.
Like badass Storm, yeah.
Were you like me and just super excited when the trailers for X-Men Apocalypse started coming out and you saw Mohawk Storm? Like, even if she's on the bad team, like, you know she's going to defect to the good guys, but she has the Mohawk. It's so rad.
Here's the thing, though, is like I think, and I talked about this in the last episode, I don't think Storm has ever been portrayed okay in any other media. So I'm not really excited about her being in the movie. Like, maybe she'll be good, but like, she's only really cool in the comics. I think she's really bad in the cartoon. I think she's been bad in the movies. Yeah.
Yeah, what's the line that's so bad in the first movie about the toad?
Yeah, what happens if a frog gets struck by lightning? The same thing as everything else, which is like, you can't argue with it. It's technically true. I just don't know why you said it out loud.
Yeah, what happens to a frog when it rains? Same thing as everything else.
Yeah, what happens to a frog when it is signed up for zero liability life insurance? Like, it's just, we can go through and say like it's really a tautology where the thing that happens to the frog is what happens to the frog. We don't need the we weren't assuming that anything was different about it, Storm. But I don't think Halle Berry's great in that role. Like, I don't think she's a bad actress. I think that she just doesn't, like, there's a kind of like a fierceness or an anger that she doesn't have that would have been really cool.
Well, there's also regality to the comic book Storm. Like, even when she's, because in a period of time in the 80s and 90s, Storm doesn't have her powers and it's still leading the X-Men. Yeah, I don't think that any of the portrayals that we've seen in other media could really pull that off. Like, Halle Berry probably couldn't pull that off without some really good writing behind her. And when we see the scene that we saw earlier in the series in the comic books when she confronts Callisto, like, that's a badass scene. Like, they don't have like fake plastic Nerf lightsabers. Like, they have two daggers that they're going at each other with. And she's just such a badass.
They're gonna fucking cut each other. It's not,
if you can go back and find that issue, and I'll try to remember to put it in the show notes to figure out exactly which issue that is. That's some really good work. Like, just from straight hand-to-hand combat, that's some really great stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it is something. I think I talked about a little bit the last time. Is that like, cartoon Storm is just funny to me. I don't think that she's very cool. It took me a long time to realize that she was cool and badass. Because, and we're going to get into this next episode. The reason why we're doing the spotlight on her is because she had her Callisto fight, which was pretty badass, but she acts like an idiot in the next episode and is laughable. Like, just there's a lot of just like, I will make you a snowstorm. You know, like it is. She's straight up silly in the next episode, and that was my storm for so long until I eventually kind of figured it out. You know who would be a good storm? Beyonce. Beyonce would probably kill it as a good storm. Like, you're absolutely right. That would kill it. Like, just like that is the mix of regality and fierceness that I want in a storm. Oh man, now I'm just picturing like the Storm dropping a whole album without telling Xavier about it. Yeah. We're just dropping a whole sudden summer squall. There you go. Without telling anybody about it. Yeah. California was saved from the drought today, out of nowhere. Yeah, and just you know, with a bunch of like an entourage like of cool dancers. I think that's always been one of my problems with Storm's power set too, is that it's kind of like this force of nature thing, and once you get to a certain age and start understanding the way the world works, you're like, well, if you make it rain over here, that's going to fuck up a bunch of stuff over there. Like, I'm not trying to get like butterfly effect on you or anything, but either A, she could probably be using her powers for a lot better than shocking toads. Like, she could literally be saving countries from drought. Or B, she's just fucking up the weather so bad that it's causing this stuff. That's probably not good. The reason why there are droughts is probably Storm. Because I mean, I don't know a lot about weather control technology. It might surprise anyone to know. But I think we can make it rain now. I think that's a thing that can be done. But there's a reason why we don't. Do it. And it might have to do with it, just like we don't fuck with the weather system. You know? You should not. You know how you say storm in Spanish, Gary? How's that? El Nino. Oh, fucking figured it out. she's the problem with the world. That's the reason that I have like crazy tornadoes touching down around here right now. It's all because of Storm. It's all because of Storm. She's also. It doesn't help me not liking her that much in the cartoon version, given that this is my least favorite outfit that she's ever had, is like the white outfit with the two lapel circles. Oh man, and those Murphy Brown shoulders. Yeah, real shoulder patty. Like this is my least favorite Storm. Like, and it sucks too because she used to be, like Mohawk Storm is pretty stylish. Like, it just looks like cool street clothes. Yeah. Punk Storm is the best Storm by far. And something about her outfit, because this comes up later and it's in the show notes, but I didn't realize, and I think in this next episode is the first time we see it, the little X things on her shoulders are like communicators. Yeah. It's like it's fucking Star Trek. Like, what? and not all the X-Men have them is the weird thing, because Cyclops has one and Jean Grey has one, I think, but like Gambit don't have one. Like there's like Jubilee doesn't get one. Like, a lot of the X-Men just don't get communicators. But I mean, like, if this was in 2003 instead of 1993, they'd only give cell phones to certain people, and Gambit would not be one of them. They'd be like, Gambit, stay off the fucking phone. You can't handle the dick pics that you get, just like a near constant. Just a constant flow of dick pics. Are they Gambits? Are they just random dicks that he's found on the internet? Nobody knows. Just Google searching, file type JPEG and just the word dick, and it's just like dick1.jpg, dick2.jpg. Gambit, why did you send me Anthony Weiner's dick pic? It doesn't even make any sense. Oh, doesn't mean on me? What are you? Who are you? Get off my team. Go be a villain. Jesus Christ. Yeah, exactly. I'm suspicious of you. As people are in the next episode.
These are the tales of the
So yeah, I think that wraps Storm up pretty well, and we're ready for episode number 7. Yeah, episode number 7, XM-107, Slave Island. Original air date, February 13th, 1993. Using special power-preventing collars, Gambit, Storm, Jubilee, and a host of other mutants are made to work as slaves in Genosha in order to complete a dam which will power a Sentinel factory. Gambit manages to escape and frees the rest of the mutants to stage an escape attempt against the Sentinels. And this is a cool episode, not least of which because it has, one, it's based on a storyline I really like. All the Genosha stuff is based on a crossover that, like, objectively is probably bad, but is one that I read really early. It's like some of the first X-Men comics I read, so I have a lot of affection for it, and that is the Extinction Agenda. And then 2, it's just whenever you have a chance to fill out a crowd with mutants and you can't just, like, what if a person had a dog for an arm? Morlock. Like, if you can't just do that, then I like it when they get to fill out a crowd with notable faces, and they do that like crazy here. Yeah, in the first 2 minutes alone, I counted, and I may be missing some, but Mystique was in the background, and she was in like classic Mystique outfit too. She's like the white, dressing gown with the skull belt. Like I love
that skull belt so much.
The skull belt's so rad.
Those tiny people.
There's Rain, who was from the New Mutants. I think that's got to be Rain, right?
No, it's Feral.
Feral. Oh,
yep.
Shit.
Yeah, that's she's X-Force.
Man, I could not tell you the difference between Rain and Feral off the top of my head. I'm gonna have to go do some research on that.
It's weird though, because they're so Feral is not to like explain to you, but the Feral is always like that. Rain is like a werewolf, can turn back and forth, and they're really different characters. Like Feral is like really flirty and aggressive.
Yeah, and Rain is much the opposite.
And Rain is like a Catholic girl who has a lot of religious hang-ups because of our Reverend Craig, her father, who beat her and stuff for being a mutant. So they're very different. But then there's also, to complicate things, Feral has a sister named Thorn, who I couldn't tell you the difference between, like, why there's a character named Thorn who's exactly the same as Feral. But yeah, Feral is mostly notable for like straight up like flirting with Shatterstar to a degree that like just rubbing her butt on his crotch, like. And just like, Jesus Christ, dude.
And millions and millions of furries were born.
100%.
Because that chick has a tail.
There, but for the grace of God went I. Like, because that was right at the right time where any amount of rubbing a butt on a crotch was like, that was it for me. That's all I needed. There's also Thunderbolt of the original X-Men. Who,
yeah, and problematic, and I'm glad they just reproduced him exactly like as he appears in the comic book. Like, we're not even going to touch this one. This one's totally cannot be our fault because it's what you drew.
Yeah, and then the comics did it too by just creating his brother, which had the same costume for a while. Yeah, I mean, I guess this could be his brother. This could be Thunderbird, or this could be Thunderbolt or Thunderbird. I bet you it's supposed to be Thunderbolt, but this is already a recreation of the comics because there's a bunch of X-Force here. And Sunfire is here. It's a real international cast. And then Northstar, we'll see Aurora later of Alpha Flight. And it's kind of cool that they show up later in the show. So they got kind of catfished by this 10% off coupon, just like everybody else did.
Dude, look, we can get this hotel room for 10% off. And what's it cost? $90? Yeah, we could save $10 if we go to Genosha right now. How
much is the flight? Oh, $4,000 because it's in Africa? All right.
Wait, why do they want us to wear our mutant outfits? Shouldn't we just go in plain clothes? No. Wear your outfits.
No, they need to know. Otherwise, we can't redeem the coupon.
I also like the fact that, and this brings up something about like just the superhero universe in general. Like, you hardly ever see a mutant out of their uniform. Like, even if they're not associated with a team, they still have a uniform and they still wear it on the reg. Like, they don't own like some Levi's.
Yeah. There's a couple of like spots where you get like casual Cyclops, which is just like Levi's and a t-shirt, but it's pretty rare.
Cash Cyc.
So they essentially they're being made to build this dam, and this guy kind of explains the rules. Like, hey, if we're gonna let you use your powers to make the dam, but once we can turn this collar on at any time, so don't do anything. Storm, when he was explaining this, was just kind of like playing Tetris or something, because as soon as he like lets them free, she flies up and then immediately gets put down because it's a button. Like, he just has to push a button to turn off all your powers and you fly. Like, what a silly thing for you to do, Storm.
Yeah, like you immediately go like 40 feet in the air after. Oh, it's so dumb. It's so dumb.
And the way she gets caught, so she lands in the water and tries to get out, and then like a tendril, like a mechanical tendril, comes out, and it's a sentinel.
Surprise! Yeah,
who comes out of the water? Which, like, what's he doing down there? Like, that river did not look that deep to me.
And there's a really good line in here I want you to do in your Gambit voice. Where, Jubilee says something like, "I thought we were done with them," and Gambit replies,
he goes, "There's always more gators in the bayou." Yeah.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. And at this point, I couldn't remember this dude's name.
It's either Trask or it's
Hodge.
Trask or Hodge shows up, who is the lawyer. So Hodge is actually the villain of the comic arc that it's based on. So Hodge does show up. Hodge is here. Trask is here. And who's the other guy? It's not Kelly. Senator Kelly is no longer here. So it's Trask, Hodge, and then the leader.
The leader, which
the way that guy dresses. What are you doing? You don't have powers.
Very extravagantly. Like, what is this outfit?
It's like a powdered wig and like a fuchsia, like fuchsia long coat.
He got kicked out of Ren Fair for being too ostentatious, Gary. Like they just couldn't handle him.
These colors didn't exist in those times. So, yeah. Storm gets put in solitary confinement in the box.
In the box.
Sweat box, which is the worst possible punishment for her and causes her to go crazy.
Which I guess explains her actions through the rest of the episode, because she never really comes out on top very well here, I don't think.
Yeah, this has taken her down a peg after the whole Callisto thing. The Blob shows up with another cameo, which I appreciate. And, it's I get like somebody's starting a fire in the forest. I must have glossed over this detail, but it's in the notes.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to find out who that is. Which is pretty good.
Which is why it's in the notes. And then we flash back to Xavier's mansion, and Wolverine just decided to show back up from Canada / the Arctic.
Yeah. And, so he's like, missed me. It's pretty great. Like he's just like it's super super cash.
And it's literally 3 seconds, and then we're right back to Genosha. they're keeping the pacing brisk, man. I think the pacing of this show is brisker than this podcast.
Yeah, 100%. The podcast does take longer than the 4 episodes of the show. That is the case. So Jubilee can pick a lock, and this is another favorite scene of mine too, because the lock that she's picking is like this electro lock thing with these 4 orange glowing rectangles, and she just sticks a paper clip into one of the glowing like nodes of light, and that's how she picks the lock. It's real good.
And I think she even says at some point, like, my friend taught me how to pick a lock, and I'm like, did your friend not tell you to go to Genosha for 10% discount on hotel rooms? What are you doing?
Listen to your friend. So they're getting ready to head out. The rest of the X-Men, Psyche and Jean and Rogue, are like, hey, they've been gone for a while. Let's head over to Genosha and see what's going on. And Xavier calls Muir Island, and we get our first appearance of Moira McTaggart, who is like one of the principal X-Men supporting cast characters. Very important.
And she'll actually tie in a little bit later into this episode as well, which is kind of a neat little story. Like, again, they do these little seeds very, very well. I mean, they did have like 60 years worth of comics to lean on to help them out, but that's still... The fact that they can do it at all is very impressive.
Yep, I like it quite a bit. So Jubilee attempts this breakout with because she breaks into that thing with the lockpick and gets a thing to turn off the collars, but it doesn't work. And when it's worth noting, before she was like, Gambit, I'm going to escape, and Gambit's like, why bother? Don't do it. And when they find out that the reason the collar didn't work, or the machine, is because she was sold out by another mutant, and she assumes it's Gambit.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. Because they're planting these seeds of doubt that'll be like well into the second season. Like the Gambit as traitor thing is something they do for like most of the series, and it's they. I'm not gonna say it's subtle, but they build it up gradually. At the very least.
Anybody that says the word share as much as he does is not subtle at all.
No, there's nothing subtle about Gambit. Like he wears very tight pants, and like at any given point where Magnetic North is, if you know what I mean. But like like he, at the very least, it is gradual. So
only a real man can fill out those tights. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly.
But this is where we're introduced to the leader. Because the leader is kind of having a conversation with Trask, like we mentioned earlier. Hodge is there for whatever reason, and they have invented a new form of Sentinel called the Master Mold. And again, this is directly from the comic books, but this is basically a self-replicating Sentinel. So it's a Sentinel that can make Sentinels, because this is an MTV show, and they it's
like Sentinels.
Yeah, it's Exhibit pimping out Sentinels. So, which, come to think of it, I probably would actually pay to watch. That sounds pretty good.
The way when Master Mold shows up later in the series, it's one of my favorite episodes for dumb Sentinels. Like, so the Sentinels act really stupid in that episode. They act pretty stupid in this one, but they act like mega stupid when they finally destroy them all. Because there's another one where they actually they team up with Magneto. I think it happens at the end of the season to fight more Master Molds, because I guess there are multiple Master Molds. The Gambit is getting taken away, and he kind of engineered this transfer, because he was like, I'm not their friends, like they don't even trust me, and the Watcher is kind of not sure how genuine it is. He throws all his cards in the air, which first of all, they let him keep his playing cards. Second of all, that somehow distracts 2 men with guns pointed at him by like the pretty moving objects, enough to where he can jump out of the back of the truck. And then we are introduced to Cable, who is like, the way that he's portrayed in the animated series is so influential to how I think about Cable.
Same.
This is
Me
this
too.
is the
Me
best.
too. Yeah. This is just like, I mean, his entire appearance is just insane for what we've seen so far. Like, even compared to all of the crazy outfits, like his is over the top in a way that is just delightful. And he does this thing where Gambit says, like, "Who are you?" And he's like,
The wild man of Borneo.
like, what?
What is
this?
that?
I don't know.
It is a thing. It's a reference to like a pop culture thing that is before our time, and definitely before the time of like any kids who are watching this. 100%. Like it is a weird old timey reference that makes no sense in this cartoon.
So can I read you? Can I read you just a brief what this is?
Yes.
The wild men of Borneo, Wayno and Plutonor, were a pair of exceptionally strong dwarf brothers who were most famously associated with P.T. Barnum and his freak show exhibitions. And also, because this is Wikipedia, there's a little clarification at the top that says, for the wild man of Borneo, see Oofty Goofty. And if you click on that, Oofty Goofty was the stage name of Leonard Borchardt, a sideshow performer who lived in San Francisco in the late 19th century.
Oofty
So,
Goofty.
I don't know what any of this stuff is. I certainly didn't know what it was in 1993. So
No. And
I
there's
don't
a
know what
movie
this
about
audience.
the specific Oofty Goofty as well.
Yeah,
So-
but from 1941.
Yeah, way before. Check this out. Way before the kids' time of anyone who's watching this, and arguably before Cable's time, because he is from the future. Like, this is like him referencing like Gargantua and Pantagruel. I'm Pantagruel. You know.
Oh shit, that's great.
Yeah, it's so good though, and his music is really badass. Like him and Bishop come off so well in the cartoon. Because whenever Bishop shows up and that harmonica.
Oh god.
Shows up, like it's incredible. So Gambit didn't betray them. Cable gives him a key so he can unlock the collars, the mutant control collars. But he's on his own business because some weird thing that has nothing to do with Cable, where like the leader promised him something and like.
He was a mercenary or something, which doesn't make very much sense for the leader. Before the leader, I guess he thought he was a mercenary for the leader when he thought the leader was going to be like a democratic leader. And I'm like, democratic leaders don't have mercenaries, right?
Yeah, and also, what does that have to do with Cable?
Yeah, let's not even get into all of that. The time travel, Scott Summers nonsense.
It's like they just needed to put somebody in that role, but it's weird because they bring him back as like the Cable we know and recognize later. This is just the Cable that's like, there's nothing to indicate anything about him other than that he has guns and looks ridiculous. So Gambit springs Storm Wolverine, and Cable is in the fight, and he blows up the Master Mold antenna, and we get a big fight scene here as Jubilee frees the mutants with the little key. And this is the cool thing where like, yes, they have a common enemy, but like these are not X-Men. Like these people are not, because they're trying to convince Blob not to kill anybody, and he's like, yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Like of course I'm going to. Like I'm the Blob. My rules are not your rules. Just because we have a common enemy doesn't mean that we're on the same page morally.
And this is one of this is one of those fight scenes that in every single episode you get a big fight scene like this, which I really like. Excuse me. That you get to see like all of these different mutant powers, and like you said, kind of at the beginning of the episode, like they're so well done, they're so well realized. Like this is everything I could have wanted from like the Blob picks a dude up and like throws him around, like North Star and I can't remember his sister's name, Aurora. Like they do that little thing in the sky and then punch a dude. Like that's all perfect. Like all this stuff is great. I love it.
It is my favorite thing too. It's like something I always feel like not embarrassed, but like one of the big reasons why I like superhero movies and I will go watch like Marvel movies as long as they keep making them is I just want to watch people use superpowers. Like I'm unapologetically into it. It doesn't get boring for me, and the cartoon does a good job of showing that off. I don't know why, but it has never gotten boring for me to watch that shit.
My problem is I have a fetish for post-credit sequences, and Marvel is pretty much the only one that does that nowadays.
and they're always good. So Cable who has his bone to pick with the leader, which like, boy, yeah, now that I think about it, why is Cameron Hodge there? Because like he's the principal antagonist in the comic version, but they're not really setting anything up for later, I don't think. Did they go back to Genosha in the series?
I was trying to remember that, but I've only I watched the first 3 seasons, I think, and then I don't think I've ever finished the series altogether. Like I never got to like the new animation style before, so like that's I don't think they go to Genosha in the next 3 years, so who knows what they're trying to set up here.
They're planning to at some point.
Yeah,
that would make sense. So Cable breaks in on the leader and kind of calls him out, rather. And eventually, with this big fight that's going on, Storm destroys this dam because she's freaking pissed with this whole thing and floods the city, killing untold thousands, and destroying these Sentinels and Master Mold. And Cable's fate is left up in the air, as well as the leader and Hodge. I'm sure we'll be seeing that leader again. Breakout character. 93.
Yeah, no doubt. Best dressed in its high school class.
Yes.
Right up there with Lindsay Bluth and that other guy.
Yeah. So that's the fight. They make it out. All the different mutants go their separate ways, and the X-Men fly back to the X-Men's home base.
Yeah, and we didn't go into a lot of detail, but like Cyclops and Jean Grey finally get fed up with not being able to make a phone call to Genosha and like fly over there, and they arrive in the nick of time, and then they finish the fight, and then everybody's flying back, and then they can't make a phone call to Xavier's home base, and Cyclops like, why can't anybody answer the damn phone for me today? He's getting all mad.
Yeah, because Cyclops has been grumpy like the last 3 episodes. Like grumpy Cyclops.
Yeah, Jean is just telekinetically edging him all day.
Sounding him with TK rods. But when they get back, the school has been destroyed. Because these 4 episodes all lead directly into one another, because with episode 8, the unstoppable Juggernaut, we're going to find out what happened. So this is XM108, the unstoppable Juggernaut. Original air date March 6th, 1993. After the X-Men find the X-Mansion destroyed, Wolverine goes looking for the suspect, followed by Storm, Rogue, and Jubilee. While on the search, the team encounters an unstoppable villain, the Juggernaut.
So yeah, I like this episode. It picks up immediately where the last one left off. In fact, it overlaps a little bit, which we did this, I believe, in the first episode of the podcast too. There was a couple of episodes that kind of start before this last one ended. You get a really great scene of Wolverine picking his teeth with his adamantium claws, which
very dangerous.
There's I just recently saw
teeth, I imagine.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, and there's an image I saw from like the Silver Age X-Men where Cyclops is cutting a slice of birthday cake for Jean with his with his laser beam, and I'm like, dude, you had to know that that's not going to work out. Like,
there's a thing that happens later in the series where Wolverine slices a chicken leg or turkey leg off with his claw that has been inside Sabretooth a bunch. Like, and even when it wasn't inside Sabretooth, it was inside him because it comes out of his arm.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good.
Looking forward to that.
Good stuff. So yeah, the team arrives at the mansion, and then they start trying to clear the rubble, trying to find stuff. Eventually, Cyclops makes his way down to, I think, what he calls it, the War Room, which we haven't really talked about it. But this episode really brings home how much of a terrorist organization the X-Men really is. And the fact that you have a war room is some fucking Al Qaeda shit.
Like, even though they haven't, at this point, they haven't done anything. Like, it's like they did all this prep, but we never see any of it built. Like, it's really confusing in the cartoon whether the idea is that they've been active for years, because everyone is acting like they just now heard of them. You know, like they're just showing up on news reports and everything. So like they did all of this prep, like the Danger Room, this gigantic underground complex, a war room, all of these things, and then just immediately went out and started losing fights. Like, it's very, very strange.
What do you mean the real world isn't the Danger Room? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Why aren't there, like, you know, walls slowly getting, you know, crawling on top of me and guns for no reason? Yep. Yeah, Danger Room is useless in this series.
Yeah. Yep. So they're trying to find Xavier because they fear he might be hurt. They find a message that Xavier has taken off, like he's pieced out. And Wolverine's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go find him." And Cyclops is trying to keep control, and he can't. So eventually, he sends Storm, Rogue, and Jubilee after them to find the person, leaving me to wonder what everyone else is doing. Like, what are Cyclops and Jean Grey doing? Like at this point, you know, like, is it not finding the person who destroyed the mansion is not a priority for the whole team, or do they just not feel like animating that many people yet, or I don't understand. But
I can only assume that they're getting down and dirty with rebuilding the mansion, right? I mean,
that's 100%. Like I've always wanted to try having sex in Wolverine's bed with a sense of smell. I'm sure that this, like,
I'm gonna go defile that fucker's bed. I dare you to leave again, Wolverine.
The only
Go
way I
fuck in your
can
bed some more.
the only way I can go to sleep is if it's to his tears. So,
oh shit, that is horrible. So yeah, they the girls, as it were, jet out in like a convertible because that didn't get destroyed.
Yeah.
Like, or may have already been on the Blackbird on the plane. Like they just took the convertible to Genosha with them. I don't know what happened.
they bought a new one. Yeah, and so they head on out, and we cut to they're split up, and we cut to Colossus, which is I love it, being introduced to new characters in the show. Colossus, who is hired, he's working construction for some reason, and he was hired to destroy a building, and he does it using his mutant powers, collapsing this building almost onto Jubilee, and Wolverine saves her, and then everyone's super mad because he collapsed it wrong. But his Colossus is hilarious in this. His way over the top Russian accent, which has colored my perception of Colossus the entire time I've read anything about him. Like, duh! Like,
yeah, it's so bad, and like he introduces himself as Colossus. Like
yes,
it's
I
not
am
even
Colossus from Russia.
yeah, and it's exactly like it's like a fucking Borat routine. It's really it's thick. I don't know. I think we talked about it the last time we talked. But did you ever get around to watching Deadpool?
No, not yet.
Yeah, so
I mean, I think I will at some point, but I'm waiting for it to be in the cheap theaters.
The Colossus in Deadpool is a lot like this. Like he's like
Really?
old. He's like old and Russian, and like Deadpool. Come on, you cannot do that. We cannot let you do this. Like it's a pretty good straight man versus all the other stuff.
Didn't we establish a goddamn Colossus in the Fox X-Men movies? Why isn't he that guy?
I have no idea. But I think no, because he shows up in the first movie, but he's only like there in for like 2 or 3 seconds, or maybe it was the second movie when they
He's in the second. He's only in the second movie for a couple seconds, but he has kind of a part in the third one. Like he does more stuff in the third one.
But all of that timeline has been erased, man.
Jeez.
Spoiler alerts for the movies, I guess. But yeah,
Except Wolverine's still the same.
Because he was the catalyst. Let's get into it, man. Let's get into it. Shit. Anyway, Colossus in the cartoon is funny, and he literally introduces himself as "I am Colossus from Russia," which is
the way
just
his power
amazing.
works is the least organic thing I've seen. Where it just kind of like, it's the same effect that Storm uses to put on her magic costume with lightning. Mm-hmm. Colossus does to grow a full foot taller. Like, it doesn't like look natural or anything like that. It doesn't like grow. He just kind of like gets replaced by a taller version of himself.
And Rogue, having seen this, is just immediately like, you can tell that she's been spending a lot of time with personal implements and not a lot of real boys, because she is very excited at the sight of Colossus.
She's way into it.
Oh yeah, dude, yeah. But in the meantime, Wolverine saves Jubilee and then very quickly determines through the process of jumping on Colossus' back twice in like the piggyback formation, and finally smells him and is like, oh no, this isn't the dude that I tracked from the mansion. This isn't our guy.
I love that he's jumping on him just to get a close smell.
Yeah. I mean, how do you smell people, Gary?
I guess that's true.
Don't tell me the answer is you don't, because I know you do.
I know I do. It's just early and often. Low and lazy. So they eventually, we think that that's just going to be it, but they pick up the Colossus runs off, and he actually gets picked up for robbing a bank. Because everybody just assumes in this world of mutants that if somebody is strong, it has to be Colossus.
Well, if somebody's breaking the law, it's got to be a Russian, right?
That's 100% true. But because Wolverine and Jubilee know he's innocent, they go off to track the real enemy.
Yeah, and this is Storm and Rogue just again pulling some terrorist shit here. And there's a line in this that I wrote down in the notes, and I don't know. So Rogue decides that the way they're going to do this is she's going to sneak in and distract the guard with her powers of flirtation, and I guess Storm is going to go in and steal the key or whatever. So Rogue goes and starts talking to this guard on duty at the police station where they have taken Colossus. And at some point, the officer on duty says, "Well, you know what they say about us guys with cold hands." And then Rogue zaps him and knocks him out. And
We never get to hear what they say.
What do they say?
I don't know what they say about guys with cold hands.
I don't want to type that into Google. I want you to tell me what they mean.
I imagine it means poor circulation and limp dicks. like that's my guess. Like that's the only thing I can think of is like semi-flacids.
It means I have a strong immunity to Viagra. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it means it takes a lot, but once I get going, it's still not great. Like
it's
It's like half a Stretch Armstrong down there, and that's what I got going down. So
that's all that I have going down there. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all. You've seen it before. You don't want to see it again.
So they get there, and this is because there's just one jail. This is like the little county jail, but somehow Beast has never been transferred to prison or anything because
and
he's still there.
He even says, I'm waiting for my day in court. And I'm like, dog, that was 6 episodes ago.
Like, you have to stop Beast.
And again, and Beast is just such a douchebag in this series. He's reading Civil Disobedience.
Yes.
Henry David Thoreau. Like they very carefully wrote that on the cover, and I'm like, oh my god, dude.
He's the kind of guy, like, he goes to coffee shops and stuff and really wants you to know what he's reading. Like, that's the Beast in the cartoon, like, because he's literally that in the cartoon. But Colossus also doesn't want to escape. Like, they try to get him out, and he's like, no, I can't do that because it's not right. And you'd think, like, why is that a problem the X-Men continuously run into? Where they try to break somebody out of jail, but the person doesn't want to. Like, what does that say about the X-Men's moral code writ large? You know, that, like, it is the weird outliers that don't want to just be immediately sprung from jail and escape due process.
Well, like, and just rolling back to, like, training to be an X-Man. You've got the danger room. Maybe you should talk about the procedure to post bail for one of your coworkers.
Yeah, like it's like kids who just went in, you know, just went into the army without going to high school and never did like home ec, so they don't know how to balance a checkbook and shit. They have to go to that re-education class that you go to, like when you get out of prison or get out of boot camp, like life skills 101.
Oh man, it's the X-Men are terrorists, Gary. I'm really sad to say that, but they're fucking terrorists. This is
pretty
bad.
True. It is very true.
So kind of apropos of nothing, like during this whole scene, they just flash back to not flashback, but they switch gears to Juggernaut just walking into a bank. Like I kind of, as I was watching this episode, I kind of expected a big reveal because they were hiding it so well. Because he's not even in the show until like the last 10 minutes. So I was kind of thinking like it would be a thing. But nope, they just smash cut and he's just walking through and like talking out loud to himself and laughing at his own jokes like supervillains do.
He's like, I kind of like how Juggernaut, because all the villains we've dealt with so far have like an ideology and Juggernaut doesn't. Like he's just kind of like walks around smiling and goofing off and like making dumb puns. And that's it. Like that's the entirety of what he does in a way that like I think that it would be tempting to do if you were literally invincible and could do whatever you want. You know, like just walking around doing whatever you want, saying whatever you want, not giving a shit. Like he probably farts in grocery stores like nothing. You know, like it is this is Juggernaut is like pure id. And I kind of like how he's portrayed here. There ends up being a reason why he's robbing the bank, which is just to get Charles Xavier to come after him because he doesn't know how to scale up a threat. Like he starts with destroying Charles Xavier's house, then goes to a crime that Charles Xavier might have time to solve.
And then immediately after this, it calls him on a cell phone and asks him if he's around. I'm like, what are you doing?
Like, did you put these? Is this a William S. Burroughs cut up? Did you like take all these ideas and put them in a hat? In your giant helmet?
And there's a really great scene where Juggernaut's walking out with 2 big bags of money, which is always like my favorite thing when criminals end up with a big bag of money with a dollar sign on them. Because,
I like that too.
We're number one, like nowadays, you can literally go to Amazon and get that. I learned that from the Duckfeed Slack the other day. Somebody linked that. But like in 1993, Amazon wasn't a thing. Like he had to special order those.
Screen printing, like in his house.
Wolverine saves the day in a very atypical Wolverine way. Instead of just jumping in, claws out, you know, and ready to kick some ass, Wolverine sneaks behind Juggernaut, slashes open the dollar sign bags, picks up a bunch of money, hands it to Jubilee, and says, "Take that back," and then makes like a quip, like something like, "My wrist."
Says, my hand was quicker than his eye. Yeah. And then Jubilee says, "Here's a bunch of money. The rest is in an alley. No time to explain." And then continues on. Something that I continuously scream while watching this. I don't scream it, but something in my mind I scream a lot is just like, get organized, motherfuckers. Like it is so like, why don't you guys stop and talk about what you're going to do for 2 goddamn seconds and you will make so much more sense than you actually do.
Well, which actually will come up in a minute, and I can't wait because Cyclops being Cyclops makes a real like shitty remark about that whole thing. So, So yeah, Wolverine steals the money, and then Colossus shows up with Storm and Rogue, and there's a big fight. And we have seen earlier that during the first robbery, they had brought a tank out because that's what you do at a bank robbery, and they had shot Juggernaut with a tank, and he just literally shrugged that shit off, no problem.
Yes.
Colossus, not seeing this, but seeing that there's a tank there, doesn't jump inside the tank to try to shoot him, picks the tank up and throws it at him.
I assume the tank was out of ammo. So at the end, the
They
same way you
carried
throw a
one
gun.
bullet.
Yeah, that's the same way you throw a gun after it's out. He's playing super hot. And then Juggernaut says thank you, of course. At some point during this, he explains his powers, where he's like, I'm not a mutant, or because Colossus is like, a fellow mutant, why do you do this?
Yeah, like typical fucking Rusky. Like, hey, it should be for everybody, yes?
Yes.
I'm butchering a Russian accent right there, but you can roll with me.
And Juggernaut's like, no, I'm magical, and they never explain it. Like in this thing, I'm pretty sure they don't actually we don't get into the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak. In this,
just imagine if we did, though.
I do. Because there's a thing I remember when X-Men 3 came out, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, Juggernaut's not a mutant," and I was just like, "Really? Like, did you really want them to go into like a 15-minute vignette where they explain the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak? Like, are you out of your mind? It is way simpler just to say mutant. Like, why would that bother you?" Out of all the things in this movie to bother you, why is that the one?
I didn't want it in the movie, but if they had done maybe an 8-episode series on Netflix to build us up to the movie, that would have been nice. Just some backstory.
I would have appreciated, or maybe something like a few, don't even stop there. Just like the smaller books, like maybe 22 pages long, but put out hundreds of them as kind of a prequel for years. And then if you read those, you can get caught up and have all the backstory you need.
So basically like Star Wars, right?
Yes.
until they threw out all of the garbage extended universe crap.
Yes.
I shouldn't say that it's garbage. I've literally never read any additional Star Wars material besides the movies. So maybe some of it's really good. I have no idea.
I bet you're right, though.
All I know is that there's a big Luke, and that's fucking hilarious to me.
Big Luke and Luke.
And Luke.
Yep.
Anyway, so yeah, he explains that he's magic and not a mutant, which, is this the point where Rogue tries to no, it's here in just a little
that's
bit.
how they take him out, or attempt to take him out ultimately, is that they do their, the way that people deal with Juggernaut is very similar in the comics. Like, you either convince Juggernaut not to want to fight anymore, because he is unstoppable, or you do a thing where the team does a Rube Goldberg contraption to get his helmet off, and one of your psychics attacks him. So they do that where Cyclops slashes at it, and then Storm or Rogue fly up and take his helmet off, and then Rogue touches his neck.
And then this goes very bad for Rogue. She starts absorbing some of his power, and he's kind of laughing it off even at the time of you can't. I'm magic, dog. You can't do that with me.
Well, it absorbs his psyche though. Because she gets this whole, his weird insecurity, his whole origin. Because at this point, I know why he's there because I know the comics, but the TV show has done a terrible job of, explaining Juggernaut at all. If you don't actually go into this knowing who Juggernaut is, this is awful.
It's so bad. It's so bad. Because all of a sudden, Rogue just starts spouting off stuff about my brother Xavier, and you're like, wait, what? They're brothers? They don't explain any of this business at all. And at some point, Jean shows up with a portable Cerebro, because that's all of a sudden a thing.
That's a thing, yeah.
Yeah. And then just knocks him out, and he kind of just wakes up where the fuck am I? Who are you? And
they erase his memory, which the ethical implications of that,
Well, okay. I mean, honestly, that's probably the one fucking thing that Xavier has actually trained Jean Grey to do.
That's be unethical.
Yeah, I mean, erasing memories is kind of his bag. That's his thing.
That is true. So Cyclops, at least at this point, was like, "Hey, this is going to take if we had worked together, this wouldn't have happened, or we need to work together." Looks at Wolverine, which is good, because Wolverine deserves that. And then we go to the mansion where Colossus, as a thank you for getting him out of prison, decides to help them rebuild the mansion. And just kind of walks around being a cheerful goof. And I think they say something like, you should join us. And he says, I can't do that because I want to see more of America first.
Well, he says, I have to go find my sister and maybe travel America.
Oh, yeah. I have to find my sister.
Which is the priority there?
Yeah. Well, listen, I need to go to Madame Tussauds Wax Museum. But also, my sister might be in hell. So also, I need to rescue her.
Colossus thanking them for this entire situation is really weird because all of the X-Men did is make him a felon. Like, if he had just stayed in jail, he would have been proven innocent after the whole Juggernaut thing was over with and just released on his own recognizance. Yep. Now he has been broken out of prison.
And he's thrown a tank.
And he's thrown a tank,
which is not legal.
I mean, I can only imagine there's many laws against that.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. That's our episodes.
Mm-hmm. Man, what a great 4 episodes.
This is really good, because the first one's all set up, and it's still impressive, and it's good at laying out the stuff. But like, the best things about the X-Men are the weird shit. You know, these like weird little side tributaries. Like Genosha is weird and great, and even Juggernaut is weird and great, even though he's like ideologically not a very strong X-Men villain. He's still fun, and this is a really good mix of like batshit insane and legitimately pretty good.
I don't even know what to say about this, Gary. It's it goes in so many weird different places that like it just feels like home to me, because I was reading the X-Men comics when all of this stuff was happening, and like the stuff that's in the show is crazy, and the stuff that was in the comics was even crazier. Yeah, you know, and it's one of those things where, and that I did the same thing with the comics as I did with the show, which I wasn't able to get them consistently a lot, so. I would pick up a random episode of the TV show and just have no fucking clue as what's going on. And then the same thing would happen in the comics. And you would kind of do that thing where like you kind of get your own headcanon. Like you kind of do that thing where when you play Dark Souls, you invent backstories for all of the NPCs until you go to YouTube and you're proven absolutely wrong. But you do that thing where you fill it in yourself, and so the characters become all the more real. So like watching this stuff now when I'm a little older, like it just feels like a comforter, excuse me, like a warm blanket.
Yeah, it does a really good... One of the things, the functions of the show had that I didn't really think about is that when I was getting into the comics in the 90s, this is dealing with storyline stuff that predated me. You know, so like it would maybe be like a year before Juggernaut would show up. I didn't know anything about him, and this was my exposure. Like I got to learn about Juggernaut, or like you get to learn about the Morlock stuff. And like I would read comics and they'd talk about Morlocks, but I didn't really know what their deal was. So the cartoon kind of acts as like a little bit of a libretto or a little like basic Cliff Notes version of a lot of these storylines, and it's kind of like a guide almost. You know, they're really inaccurate. They're not very good guides, but in a kind of Wikipedia world, it was really helpful. They actually put out a book for a while that was 1-page long, really detailed recaps of every issue of X-Men that I used to collect. Yeah, and it was just like, here's like you get one issue of this comic, and it'd be like, here's really detailed what happened in the first 24 issues of X-Men, like one whole page, what was notable, what characters had their first appearance, and I collected that back in the day, and that kind of helped with this stuff too. But it's just like walking into something that's this thick with continuity, it is you really do kind of need something to break it down to a simpler, dumber version, and the cartoon does a great job of that, I think.
I opened up Marvel Unlimited, which is a subscription service for Marvel comic books. First time I've opened it up in a couple of months, and they've apparently updated it so that they actually do. If you search for a character, they'll do like a character moments thing, like the one I was researching Deadpool after I watched the movie, so it's like the first time Deadpool meets Cable, like the first time Deadpool does this, the first time Deadpool's introduced, and then seeing that, I was like, oh, they're just doing this for the movie. But you can look up a lot of characters, and it's really helpful for the X-Men. Like, if you can go look up Nightcrawler, like the time Nightcrawler turned into a child of Satan, like the time that Nightcrawler was in Britain with Kitty Pryde, like, all these crazy weird stories, but you can just go right to those issues and just, read them. So it's a pretty good resource for this stuff.
The Nightcrawler being a child of Satan thing is pretty incredible. It's never dealt with in the cartoon, so we'll never talk about the Draco, but like it is the single worst
it's the worst storyline. Yeah, it's the absolute worst.
It's worth reading it so bad. Like Chuck Austin's run on the comics, that's around when I got out of comics. Was then and a little I stayed actually later than that because I read like the Peter Milligan run and the Brubaker run on X-Men for a while, but that was a writer like a little bit after that because it happened contemporaneously and right after the Grant Morrison run, and like boy oh boy, is that some misguided nonsense. I would actually kill for there to be a cartoon version of the Draco so we could talk about it. That'd be amazing.
Man, it's so bad. I've never actually read the comics. I've just done like the summaries and everything, and hearing other people talk about them, and wow, it is one of those things where you look at it and it's like a car, it's like a train wreck. Like, I just want to know more about it. I know it's bad for me and I shouldn't, but I want to know more about it.
It is really something. Really something.
But if you as a listener out there want to know more about this podcast, where should they go? Where should we tell them to go, Gary?
You should. So this is under the Duckfeed Presents label, so you can find more information at Duckfeed.tv. And so you're going to find some of that stuff. There will be you can talk to us about this stuff probably in the comics channel or movies and TV channel, and maybe its own channel if there's enough popularity on Slack once this actually starts coming out. In full disclosure, we're recording episodes in advance to get some kind of under our belt before we start putting them out. I think the current plan is to do this season, but then make future seasons kind of contingent on Patreon stuff. So I think that the idea is that we'll kind of keep, like, we want to see whether people like this. So if you like this, you should let us know. And those are places to do it. And hopefully you like it, because it's fun to do.
And Gary mentioned the comics channel. That's on Gary and Cole's Slack that they do for Duckfeed.tv, which you can get access to by going to patreon.com/DuckFeedTV and donating them a couple of dollars. They do this for basically a living. They record, I think at last count, it was 757 podcasts per week. So if you can just give them, $2 or $3, a day.
$2 does get you into the Slack.
Does get you into the Slack, $2 a month.
Slack is a real fun place. So
it
I
is
think you'll
an
like
extremely
it.
fun place.
Yeah, and this is a fun show to do. Hopefully you like it. Let us know. You can. The best place to interact with me, the easiest place is on Twitter at GaryBuh, GaryBuh.
And I am at JG Greer on Twitter, where you can also interact with me. Thank you guys for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
Three, two, one.
It sounded bang on my side. So
yeah, it did sound bang on.
Bang on.
Yeah, you went ham on that clap. Ham on clap.